All right, what's going on, guys? This is Logan with West Desert Shooter. If Brian Litz is offering free advice on the internet, I'm going to listen to what he has to say. So, recently, Brian Litz put up a video of how he cleans his rifle barrels. And basically, he takes JB bore paste, which is an abrasive cleaner, and he puts a lot of it on a patch and then runs it up and down his barrel 30 times with one patch, and then he'll swap patches and then do that again 30 times. Specifically focusing on pulling the patch into the chamber and pushing it back into the chamber, because that's right where the leads are of where your rifling starts. And so you can get a carbon ring at the end of the case neck, because there's a slight gap at the end of the case neck before the chamber ends, so that you have a safe amount of room for that case to move in there. Well, a lot of carbon can get trapped in there, and so that's his way of essentially making sure that stays clean. And then it really scrubbed out his barrel. I gotta say though, I've been using patch out and stuff, using kind of Eric Cortino's method, and it takes a while to do that. Brian Litz did that. What does scrubbing your barrel 30 times, changing a patch in 30 times do? It's really quick, and I gotta say, I did that with my Bergara 308, and it was very effective very quickly. It didn't have a ton of rounds on it to clean out all that much, but that barrel was sparkly clean by the end of it. I'm not scared to use an abrasive cleaner on there. One note, you gotta use a tight fitting patch. So I did use a smaller circle patch I had with a larger square patch over a 30 cal Jag. So it was a solid tight fit as Brian recommends. So I scrubbed out my barrel before we went and shot all these components. Fresh and clean barrel. Let's get that out of the way, I guess. So now let's talk about what we're going to go shoot here today. I had two different powders I wanted to shoot, and usually I shoot 10 rounds of the same load with however many powders I'm going to use. So that would normally leave me with 20 rounds to shoot today. I had taken the scope off my 308 and I wasn't sure if it was still zeroed. So I remounted it, didn't adjust the rings or anything, so it should have been close. And after being scrubbed cold and clean, well, I guess once I got to the range, it was a cold bore, right? But with a very clean barrel. So I loaded up an extra 5 as siders and fowlers to make sure that the barrel had something in it before I try and start testing accuracy. So with my Bergara 308, we're gonna go out and I don't have target footage in this video, but we do have shooting footage, and then we'll talk about our results at the end of it. But yeah, so we've got N150. We shot 15 rounds of that. And it turned out that I did end up shooting 2 different overall lengths. In the shooting footage, I talk about possibly doing that. I decided to do that. And then with IMR4895, I also shoot 2 different overall lengths. I loaded it 25 thousandths off the lands across all 25 when I originally loaded them. But fortunately, I have this really cool seating die. This is an arbor press. This is your whole press right here. So this thing's mobile. So you take out your seating die, you can make micrometer adjustments right here so you know what you're doing, and then you just go ahead and seat them. So all I did was take a long round and seat it shorter. Super easy to do while you're out in the field with equipment like this. Really, really effective. So I'd already shot 10 rounds of the N150 at a specific overall length. Decided I just wanted to see what would happen if I were to shorten them up, and it was for a specific reason, and I'll explain that in the video. But then we do IMR 4895, and I figured for the hell of it, hey, let's shoot a short overall length of 4895 as well. Components, we're using really nice stuff with a very affordable rifle. We've got my Bergara HMR in 308 Winchester, and this guy's got a 20-inch barrel with a 1-to-10 twist, threaded 5/8 24. It's in a nice stock chassis, and we've got an arc and optics up top. And then I use my MDT SkyPod with a universal Arca rail that I got from Anarchy Outdoors. I also got my bolt knob from Anarchy Outdoors. And then we're using Lapua Brass Berger bullets, 30 cal, 185 grain. This is their Juggernaut Target, 185 grain. Berger really gets into the details of like a lot of different bullets, especially in 30 cal. They have like 180s, 180.5s, the full bores, the targets, the VLDs, the hybrids, all this stuff. This one's the Juggernaut Target. That's what I ended up with here. So as for primers, we use Federal large rifle. This was never fired, brand new Lapua brass that we fired today. And then I used a neck expanding mandrel from Wilson, so that gave us 2000s neck tension. Just overall, really good components. And this is like, I don't know what the name of the conglomerate is, but there's one company that owns Lapua and Berger and Vitavori. That's why they now make factory ammo. And yeah, so we're like going all within that, right? And then of course we throw in some Hodgdon powder because I like Hodgdon, I have a lot of it. So let's get out to the range, let's shoot some groups. We're gonna talk through some things while we're there, and then we're gonna come back here and discuss lots of numbers, lots of different results, and talk about how things went. We'll see you guys out at the range. All right, guys, we are ready to start things off with the 308. Well, actually, I've already started the 308 for today. I had to confirm my 0. I had no other rounds loaded up, so I loaded an extra 5 of my N150 loading. So we're actually going to start with that because I already know that this load is safe to shoot, so that'll keep things simple, keep my face on the gun. Cold and clean, I scrubbed this barrel out. I watched a video of Brian Litz where he cleaned his rifle and used JB bore paste and just scrubbed the hell out of it. 2 patches, 30 strokes each, and his barrel was like sparkly clean, which is really fast to do compared to like patch out, let it sit, scrub it, patch out, let it sit. So I did that in this, and I shot my first 5 shots, and 1 went high left. That was my first round, and the other 4 grouped really nicely, which is probably one of the better groups this gun's ever shot, or at least that I've made it shoot. So yeah, looking forward to shooting more of those. If I shoot a nice clean group on this first round, I may seat these bullets shorter. We'll talk about that more on the bench, but yeah, got an idea in my mind. And so we're gonna start things off with 40.5 grains, N150, chronographs armed, everything's ready to go. These are loaded too long for my magazine, so I will have to single feed. So we're gonna start things out single feeding my 308. It's the same bullet at the same overall length currently, so I'll have to single feed everything today. There's a couple things I struggle with shooting this gun. One of them is my bipod sits close compared to my other chassis rifles, and so it just kind of makes it rock a little more than I like. The second thing is this factory trigger in this Bergara is way different than all my aftermarket triggers that I own on my other guns. So I think it's kind of a good thing to try and shoot well with this rifle. It's tricky, and it's got more recoil than anything else I've got. So trying to shoot tiny groups with this gun, it takes some effort. But I think we could do it today. Everything's feeling really good. All these shots are breaking when I want. So I do think I'm gonna change the seating depth on the N150s and see those results before I decide to do the next group. Because we've already shot 10 of the same thing and both of them shot good groups. So I might as well shoot 5 of something else just to get some kind of more idea of better loads. So we'll go from there, guys. Well, all right, guys, took my Ellie Wilson seating die. Because it runs on an arbor press, it's easy to bring out into the field, and I did shorten up these rounds overall length. I shortened them so that they would fit and function in the Bergara factory magazine. So if you're running the factory Bergara magazine, then this is what you could effectively load out to, and you're going to be quite a ways off your land. So originally they were set at a length of 2.94, which should be 25 thousandths off the lands with these Berger 185s. And then you're going to load them 85 thousandths shorter than that. So you're going to be 110 thousandths off your lands, something like that. So here we go, factory Bergara mag. I've never shot any rounds through the factory magazine before, so hopefully it functions. I doubt that it won't work. So here we go, guys. Berger 185s loaded to a short overall length, just to keep things interesting here today. Definitely curious to see if we're going to see a velocity spike because we shortened them, as well as any pressure signs, and just overall, how does the group look? Hopefully it doesn't look a whole lot different, but we're going to find out. Berger 185s loaded to Bergara factory magazine length. Rifle's been cooling while I've been messing with seating depth, so everything here is nice and cool now. Still looks fine, nothing scary. I will say this is still not a compressed charge at this shorter length. So still got room to go with the N150. Cycle's nice and smooth. I could get my own hat out of the way. So far looking good, 3 of them are touching. Interesting. Little mirage coming through. Take a second to breathe, refocus the eyes. All right, guys, that looks really good. We got 2 great looking groups with the Berger 185s. Makes me excited to keep shooting more of them. We've got the MDT mag in here because while shortening up my other rounds, had my calipers out, checked both mags. Turns out that the long overall length fits in the MDT mag. So if you want to load longer rounds, it's pretty simple. Just get an MDT mag with this bottom metal on this HMR, the Bergara. It fits. So there you go, little tech tip for you. I'm probably going to shorten up the last 5 rounds as well. We're going to see how these first 5 shoot though. So let's get to it. This is the best this 308's ever shot for me. So I'm happy to finally be shooting good groups with my 308. Maybe it took some barrel break-in. Maybe I'm just not being an idiot anymore. Well, that certainly isn't the case. But yeah, I'm happy with how the old 308's doing. Oh yeah, this is IMR4895. I've been having excellent results with it in 7mm 08. So I threw some in the 308 today. Hopefully we shoot some good groups again. It doesn't get the most consistent velocities, but it does shoot accurately in my experience, so accuracy is good to have too. Everything looks just fine there. Uh-oh. Bullet nosedive here. I do find it interesting. I've had better feeding results using 6.5 Creedmoor and MDT's 308 mag than I have with actual 308. This magazine seems to be tuned better for 6.5 than 308, which I think is funny. Well, this is annoying. I'm just going to empty these out and single feed them. This gun's very ergonomic. This Arcon Optics, great sight picture downrange. Like, this is a great rifle combo here. It's not cheap, but it's not expensive. It's a $1,000 gun, a $300 scope. And you can shoot groups with it and shoot long range. It's tactical. It's got good bottom metal. There's things to like about this Bergara. It's heavy barrel, threaded. Trying to ignore the paper flopping around next to me. Took just 2 to 3 minutes, let that guy cool the gun off. I also shortened up these last 5 rounds with my arbor press. So, ready to shoot our last group of the day with the 308. Looking back through the scope, that previous group really wasn't that great. So I decided to shorten them up, see if we can see something a little bit different here. Also curious how the velocity may or may not change. And then just overall, what the differences are that we do see. So the Bergers seem to have shot at both lengths, so let's see what it does with IMR4895. Good shot. Oh yeah, the last 5 were all good shots too. Nothing weird, no pulled shots or anything. Let's check our brass. Nothing. Everything's as it should be. Velocities didn't do anything crazy. Man, the way my cheek's riding this right now, it's beating up my cheekbone. It's not particularly comfortable to shoot. This guy nosedive too? Yep. Oh dear. There we go. A little bit of feeding issues in this Bergara today. We're loaded long. I can understand it. No hard bolt lift or anything. It's running good. Yeah, I rushed that shot a little bit. Went low left, but our first shot went high right. So weird group. 2 flyers with 3 just shooting into the same hole. Something's off here. I don't think that this powder likes this bullet combo. It's going to wrap it up at the range with the 308. Let's get back to the bench and talk about it. All right, and we are back at the bench. We got lots of groups to talk about. Well, not a ton, but we got some interesting things to talk about with our overall length changes, as well as how our velocities may or may not be different by changing the overall length. And then what we thought about shooting that cold, clean gun and the group that it produced through the first 5. So let's start there. I was pretty confident that N150 would be a pretty mild charge, so I decided to load up 15 of those. So we did N150. That is at 40.5 grains across all 15 rounds, loaded to 2.940 for our first group, which is 25 thousandths off the lance. My very first shot in this picture is the one that I marked the arrow. It's straight down below the diamond. The next 4 are the 4 that I actually measured. So it had 1 oiler round, the bench rest guys will call it, or just 1 fouling round. And then the next 4 shot awesome. This is some of the best shooting that I've ever done with this 308. And it seems like the more I shoot this gun, it's breaking in and it's actually starting to shoot good. And or I'm just shooting it better as the person shooting the rifle. But our first 4 of those 5 went into .60, 3 of them cloverleafed, 1 of them just outside of that cloverleaf. I'm really happy with that. That's promising. That tells me that this combo will shoot. So can it back it up with a second group, or was that luck? Our second group, as we switch targets here, N150 shoots into .62. So these 10 loaded at the same overall length both shot really good. So at this point, I already have 2 targets that confirm this is a good shooting round. So why not change something and see if I can learn more? So I pushed these bullets back, and if we talk about what my notes are here, I end up going to a 2.855 overall length. It was 2.940, so that makes these 85 thousandths shorter. And the reason that I went to 25 thousandths off the lance was just like, it's pretty common. That's a pretty common number to hit, of like, get them close to the lance, be 25 thousandths off. That's pretty general advice there. The 2.855 overall length is what comfortably fits inside the factory magazine with that Bergara rifle. So that's the magazine that came with it. It's a 5-round mag. It's an AICS bottom metal, so you can swap it out for those MDT mags like we saw. But I never even shot any 5 rounds through that magazine, so I just wanted to see how it would go. And generally, if you own that HMR and you have that magazine, this is going to be a load that you could use and magazine feed. So let's see how that goes. So our first group with a scrubbed clean barrel, all 5 shots, our average velocity was 23.58 with an SD of 12.6 and an ES of 39. Our second 5-shot group, with that exact same load at the exact same length, that would be 23.61 average with an SD of 9.7 and an ES of 30. So pretty dang close there. I did have a note here that our first round of that super clean barrel was 20 to 33. It was 20 to 30 feet a second slower than those other 4 rounds. So across all 10 there, super consistent, low SDs, low spreads. It likes this N150. So then we shorten it up, and we're going to see how it shoots shortened up. Now, 85 thousandths is a big difference of what you're jumping at that point. So then it's jumping 110 thousandths to the lance. So this is a wildly different setup. I will say that there was no compressed loads at all today between all the long and the short loaded rounds. So even shortening this, there was still room in there for more N150, and that's a good thing, I guess. I can throw more powder in there if I choose to do so. Our second group, once we shortened it, we only get one shot at this of a 5-shot group. So looking at this group, 0.65 inches. Looks really good. What did it do to our velocity, shortening that bullet that much? Generally, you would think it would create more pressure because there's less room in there for the powder. But when we look at the velocities of the short, the average is 2354 with an SD of 5.3 and an ES of 14. Now, it might just be a lucky SD there. I don't know if I shot 10 rounds if it would actually go up or not. But generally, pushing the bullet further into the case, you'll have less room for that powder to kind of move around in there. So that would make sense that it would tighten up our SDs, possibly. But our average actually was slower than both of our long loaded rounds with the N150. So very, very interesting. It was very close. It was only a few feet a second slower, but moving it in 85,000 shorter didn't spike our velocities like I would expect it to. So it just shot really consistent across all 15 rounds. Very interesting stuff there. Okay, so that was a bit of a mess there, explaining the cold clean, and then the second long group, and then a short group. But I think I got all the information in there. So then we let the rifle cool off. I was shooting 3 guns out there today, alternating between all 3. So the 308 got its turn, and then it went and sat in the shade with a rifle cool in the barrel for the first 5 minutes or so. And it really got to cool down, ready for the next 10 rounds that it was going to shoot. The other 2 guns I was shooting, I shot more groups than the 308. So there's only a few groups this gun had to shoot this day anyway. So looking at our first group of IMR4895, I've had really good luck with this IMR4895 in 7mm 08, sitting those bullets close to the lands in the 708. I was curious how it would translate to a 30 cal with these Bergers. Now we look at our first group of 4895, and this shoots over an inch, 1.04, and just kind of a weird horizontal spread here, not super vertical, a bit of an angle. It's not great. So it was decent. 4 of them are decent. The one on the right kind of ruined that group at 1.04. Shooting into an MOA. It's a factory gun. It kind of hurts to see this kind of stuff after shooting my custom gun, because that thing was shooting so good this day. And then I shoot my 308 and shoot a 1.04. It's a little disappointing. Overall, not bad. We can certainly shoot worse groups with this gun. And in fact, we do. So what we do is we shorten up the rounds for our second group and set them to the exact same overall length as I did with the N150, again feeding from the Bergara magazine. IMR4895 goes out to prove that things can get worse with a 1.41 inch group. And they were not even close to trying to group. So that's what's so interesting to me about reloading. And I'm gonna cover this in my 7mm 08 video as well. You can shoot good groups with 1 powder, just change the powder, and then all of a sudden shoot bad groups. So like there are specific combinations that like to work together, and there are specific combinations that don't like to work together. And so you just have to find the right combo. And I did this when I first started reloading my 243. I was really trying to get a Sierra 95 grain to shoot well with IMR 7828, because at the time I was so broke, it was the 1 powder that I had. And now I've got a cabinet full of powders that I love to play with and try all the different combinations. But at the time, like 7828 and those 6mm bullets for my 243 did not like each other. And no matter how many times I would shoot it, they would never want to group. That's just what it came down to. So let's talk about velocities with IMR 4895. The first 5 at the long overall length shot 2484 with an SD of 10.2 and an ES of 30. Really not a bad showing for IMR, really there. That's pretty much the best velocity, most consistent velocities I've seen when trying this stuff out. With this short overall length, shot the exact same velocity, 2484 average, with an SD of 11.1 and an ES of 32. So the extreme spread is 2 feet a second apart. The long ones were 30 and the short ones are 32 with the exact same 24-84 average. Super interesting there. Yet again, we're seeing shortening these up 80 thousandths did nothing to affect our velocity essentially. Really, really interesting. That's not at all what I would have guessed. So it's good to see this in 2 different powders back to back and, you know, kind of learn. Maybe overall length isn't going to spike my velocities like I really think it will. So I don't know, maybe it just happened to work out this way with these 2 powders. If we did it with, let's say, Varget, all of a sudden we're going to see something different. I don't know, but I know that on this day it didn't make a damn bit of difference. So there it is, guys. It's overall a pretty short video for the 308. We have nothing for pressure on our cases here. Those guys are now fire formed. We're working our way through our second 100 pack of brass. So we've got probably 150 pieces fire formed, and we've probably got 70 more in here. I did buy a factory box of Berger ammo, which comes with Lapua brass, so that's a nice little bonus there. So I shot 20 of those, and so I will have 220 pieces by the end of this. So after today's 25, we're well on our way. Overall, it was fun to use the seating die out in the field. Just knowing that I can do that and do a seating depth test while I'm out shooting is pretty cool. I think the 308 really likes the N150, so maybe we'll bring this back out, bump up the powder charges, start pushing this 308 a little bit more, because between N150 and 4895, 4895 shot 24-84, yeah, 130 feet a second faster than N150. So we can certainly push harder with N150. This is a lot slower burning powder as well. I've written down the burn speed on the burn rate chart from Hodgdon, and currently, you know, it's November 2024. 4895 sits in position 101 as far as all the powders listed, and N150 sits at spot 124. So this is a good bit slower than 4895. This is just under IMR 4350 in burn rate speed. So this is just a little bit faster than IMR 4350. H4350 is a good bit slower than that. So pretty interesting stuff there, but had a good time shooting out here for a factory rifle, factory trigger, affordable scope. We have a nice bipod on it. We have a good suppressor out on the end. I should mention, we had a Huxworks 338 Magnum tie suppressor out on the end of my rifle today. On my previous trip, I swapped a suppressor between 2 guns and it was getting hot the whole time. So this time I said, to hell with that. We're bringing the suppressors for all the guns. So I had 3 out there. They all had their own can, and they all had their own suppressor cover, which fortunately now I do have. This guy was shooting the Coltac suppressor cover on there, and then it has, I don't know, T&K Hunting calls it a fire sleeve that really increases the temperature that the suppressor can handle, and it has one of those on it. It's a rubber sleeve with fiberglass in it that then the suppressor cover wraps around that. So it really keeps heat insulated for a while. The problem is, it will trap a lot of heat, but it also takes a long time to cool the whole thing back off because it's so well insulated. Outside that, SkyPod out front, Archon Optics 6-24 SH4 Gen 2 on top, and it's a good affordable rifle combo. That's what I wanted for this 308 series. Although I will say, I think this rifle is picky. I think it has to really find a combo that it likes to shoot well, and even at that, for a factory rifle, it shoots okay. I've seen others that can shoot better than this, but like the .62, .65 is really some of the best shooting that I've seen out of this so far. So yeah, the N150 shot .6s across all 3 groups, by the way. A 6.0, a 6.2, and a 6.5. I just noticed this. And then 4895, both over an inch, so it didn't like that combination. So if you guys have a Bergara HMR in 308, let me know what combination works in your gun. Let me know what bullets that your gun seems to like, and yeah, give me the combo. What bullet, what powder. I'll pick my own charge and go from there. I appreciate you guys watching. I hope you enjoyed the footage, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.